An ad.
Okay.
We are live. We just went live.
Oh
So
God.
there's like 4 ads. You have to get through all the ads first, just like Google. There it is.
There we go. That one.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. Welcome to the
10th.
See You
No,
in
9th.
Valhalla. Oh, we got to change the name here. Change the
Yeah.
title. Episode
Guys, it's our
10.
10th. It's our Deca thing.
Yeah.
Deca birthday. Oh my
That's a
God. Hey,
thing.
Mitch, high five.
Uh,
Congratulations, dude. High five, Mitch. Mitch, I'm trying to high five you.
I'm typing a thing right now. The title was still
Wow.
nutrition.
um. Wait. Whoa, did it not change
There, I just changed it.
on your end?
Hopefully.
Wait, are you sharing your screen? No, that's my screen.
No, I was typing the title change.
Oh, it's
Should
because
see
I
it
gotta
change.
do this one. Okay, I've got the wrong screen.
So
Hold on. I just gotta.
today we are talking about sport-specific training and how CrossFit kind of fits into sport-specific training. When you think sport-specific training, Jeff, what are you thinking from your perspective?
I have like a 30,000 foot view of it, and it would be the first thing that came to mind would be golfing and working on hip mobility.
Golfing specific, that was just the
That was the
sport
first thing that
golf
came to mind.
comes to mind.
You want me to
And
try
hip
harder?
mobility.
Yeah, because don't you have to have like I think I've been told that like the issue in my swing is my hips.
Okay.
But beyond that, you could get into like more physical sports or soccer. So that would be having a strong ass to kick the ball really hard might be sport
Let's do
specific.
this. Let me put you into a perspective, and then we'll see what you come up with. You're, let's say it's Simon, but now he's 14.
Okay.
He's taken a liking to, let's just go with soccer because it seems most realistic at this moment.
Yep.
And you want him to advance above his peers at perhaps a faster rate
Mm-hmm.
than just going to soccer.
Fast twitch muscles, quick feet.
So when you think of that, you want to sign him up for a sport specific program. I want to coach a strength and conditioning, let's say coach, to get him really good at soccer so that he's better than the rest of his peers.
Cardiovascular training and fast twitch muscles.
Okay. So it's like the first things you think of.
First
Okay.
things that came to mind. Yeah.
Here's why I try to frame it that way, as I think everybody's going to hear the words sport specific training, but there is no super clear definition on what sport specific training is yet that
Okay.
I know of. Unless, I don't know, maybe we could do a quick Google search. Maybe there is
What?
an actual definition for that. Define sport specific training. Whoa.
Whoa. Is simply fitness and performance training designed specifically for athletic performance enhancement. If done correctly, this type of training can be very beneficial for athletes. However, if it is not done properly, it can be very detrimental. It's the only thing that I guess there's probably a lot more that came up, but the big bolded section, simply fitness and performance training. So,
Where did you get that?
what is
What's your source?
sport
Site?
specific? What's that? Oh, it's not a website. Just hold on, it's just popped up here. Um, just hold on a minute. I'm just gonna drop it up here. Hold on. Screen share. What is sports share? So I guess I don't know. Maybe it's Island Sport Physical Therapy.
Okay, no, that's fine. I
Okay.
have a different one. So
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
there you go. Right.
Yours says sports specific, simply fitness and performance training designed specifically for athletic performance enhancement. If done correctly, training can be very beneficial to athletes. However, if it's not done, okay. Well, I don't know about. I don't feel like that's sports
It seems
specific
like they're saying a lot,
training.
but not saying a lot.
Yeah, that's still vague. It's
Yeah.
not a definition. It's a vague. So the definition I have pulled up, I just typed in define sport specific training,
Uh-huh.
and it popped up with specific training is the notion or idea that
Oh,
for an athlete to become better at their sport, their time spent in the weight room needs to somehow be different than the training of an athlete that plays a different sport. This is somewhat true by the exercise physiology law of specificity. That's always hard to say, but that
yeah, I
is
hate that
okay. I think that definition is a lot more clear, and it
word. Yeah.
also alludes to the fact that we're talking about weight room or kind of like gym specific things, because you could say sport specific training just by definition of the individual terms, and we're talking soccer, let's say, is when you're playing soccer and doing drills with a soccer ball
Mhm.
and learning positions and uh, you know, soccer drills.
Right.
But that's what this definition is saying it is not. It is saying it is a weight room related training that is going to correlate to their sport better than somebody in a different sport who should be doing something different. It could be slightly different or very different.
How do you figure that out?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Glad
Um,
you asked.
okay, so this is where I think before we get into what it does need to be, let's look at this article on the CrossFit Journal
Yeah.
about general physical preparedness. So GPP, which is basically what all of CrossFit is considered. It's a general physical preparedness strength and conditioning program. So let's look at these bullet points here. We got GPP is the most underdeveloped and neglected aspect of athletic training, especially in elite athletes. So what this is saying is that general physical preparedness is oftentimes completely ignored in the growth of an athlete from teenager into their sport as they become an elite athlete. So think about the soccer player again, 12, 14 years old, something like that. And they um, they join in on all these strength and conditioning coaches starting at 14, let's say, that are like, hey, like we're really good at getting soccer players more agile, more quick on their feet, more power behind the ball. They usually will brand their program around all those things, right?
Uh-huh.
And they probably are pretty good at all those things. I'm not denying any of that. But the problem is everything they have them then do in the gym is strictly to translate to a specific instance on the field, in the sense that like you were kind of saying, fast twitch, right?
Mhm.
Like they just want the hip flexor to be extremely fast twitch. So this is how they're going to train it, and etc. Right? Okay, cool. I don't disagree with that. However,
Yeah.
there is no general physical preparedness when you're doing that. You're being specifically prepared for that,
Yeah.
not generally, right?
Okay.
Okay. Um, so that tends to be what does happen from my observation so far, is most of these teenagers do go into almost like boot camps for their sport. So they go to an athletic training center that is all about their sport, and everything they do in the gym is kind of like trying to train their energy system that they use in their sport and the modalities that they use in their sport to the degree of the power they might produce in those modalities. So if that makes modality like specific movement selection.
You're starting to understand my thought process because I was about to say, can you, for the people in the back, tell us what what
Yeah.
modality is?
Modality is like is
Yeah.
the movement, right?
Okay.
So essentially they're trying to match movements that they're going to do in this boot camp. They're like, these are gym movements that are also similar to the sport. Make sense so far?
Mm. Yep. I'm following you.
So soccer players might be doing more fast twitch single leg movements in a scenario like this. So like think of Bulgarian split squat where they only have to go
Oof.
halfway down but then explode out of it and jump.
Was having a good time until you brought up Bulgarian split squats. My
Right.
bad.
Okay. So it was fun. Now it's not. No.
Yeah.
No. But that's like what they're talking about
Yeah.
essentially in sport when you go saying that Well, okay, that's cool, but you should also be able to go full range of motion on that Bulgarian split squat. You should be able to do
Mhm.
it slow, fast. You should be able to combine that Bulgarian split squat with a pull up and be okay and not die, right? That's what GPP would be, right? Is it should be able to combine that stimulus with any other stimulus and you can excel at it or at least express yourself on it. That's GPP.
That
Cool?
that makes a little bit more so is that when you were bringing in those
Did I
kids
lose you?
man, that sounds terrible, but, when
Yeah,
you
you're totally
were,
muted right now.
I'm muted? Am I muted still?
Nope, still muted.
How about now?
You know what? It's probably me. Hold on. It's because
Don't
I
say
got a
that.
phone call and it came to the speaker, I think. Maybe
Can you
not.
hear me? How about now? How about now?
Check,
Oh, boy.
check.
I can hear you. Can you still not hear me?
Nothing?
I
Let
can
me see if I can
I
just
can hear
my
you.
phone, see if it's fucking with it. Check,
Um,
check. Talk. Thought I heard
yes.
some.
How about
I
now?
hear you now. I hear you now. I hear you now.
Perfect.
Okay.
What I was saying was when, you're bringing kids in, were they sport specific? I mean, and are you still doing that? Like the younger ones?
Um, I'll do it here and there. This is there's a lot of frustration around, for me anyway, around what this could mean and what's best for the person. It's very, I think it's a teeter-totter that's tough to balance. But we'll come back to that question, I think,
Okay. Yeah.
because I've
Table
I've
it.
evolved a bit on what I believe here. So,
Okay.
okay, let's go to the next bullet point. CrossFit produces an unmatched GPP in novice, intermediate, and advanced athletes, regardless of prior training and sport. I don't think we need to talk more about that.
Yeah.
Olympic medalists, UFC legends, some glaring chinks in their armor. That is something that GPP can expose. Is when, like, look at these soccer players, like especially these female soccer players. None of them can do a pull up. Now, you don't necessarily need a pull up in the game
Yeah.
of soccer, but when you talk about stabilizing against another body, like say you're both going for the same ball, your
Uh-huh.
arms out, and you're trying to keep them at bay, that is to some degree the same muscle tension that you're going to use in a pull up. And if you had a stronger pull up, let's say, you are going to have an easier time managing that athlete's
Yeah, yeah, taking care of
center of
business.
mass and not taking over your center of mass, right? So that's a very specific instance. Think also about, just generally speaking, when you kick a ball, do you hold your arms like perfectly still in front of you or at your
Uh,
sides? Or do you usually kind of use some sort of leverage
yeah,
mechanic? You do,
yeah.
right? So having a stronger shoulder joint does actually help you off weigh and control those things in a more explosive and accurate and ballistic kind of way, right? So um, that's where it's like these huge chinks in the armor are actually weaknesses, even if you don't use your hands in the sport.
So
And
is the best
we're
way to
not
figure out,
asking
like
them to be really good at pull-ups. We're just saying they just should fucking be able to do it.
yeah, right, just, like, go through and do it. So then eh, and so when we're talking about GPP, it's, like, any of, like, the main movements that we do, like, would a CrossFit class, like, translate if you brought in, like, say, this soccer player into just, like, a general class, that wouldn't would that still fall under, like, something that they should be doing, I guess? Does that make sense? Because it's not sport specific.
Correct. Yeah. So the answer is yes, but it's also it's more about when and how much, right? So when would you want to be just a general CrossFit goer as a sport specific athlete? Is in your off season,
Oh, okay.
right? That's when you would be hitting the most GPP. Get away from your sport completely, do GPP, and it'll actually better prepare you for when you're ready to start back up in your sport.
It's like, changing the oil on your lawnmower. It's like keeping things smooth when you're not
Yeah,
out there running around
and
on the
you're
field.
bringing up these smaller nuances that would otherwise be ignored, like the lat strength, let's say,
Mhm.
so that when you are going to go back into your sport specific training, you won't have to train to use your lat while you're kicking a ball. You'll just suddenly be better.
Just kick the ball. We've
Um,
had some pretty sweet athletes come through. It would be we should have brought on old, Tonsillless McGee, Aubrey Chatterton. Oh, hi,
Tonsillless.
Lily.
Lily, what do you need? More popcorn? Okay.
Oh,
Why don't you go get the bag for me?
because wasn't there?
It's in the
I mean,
pantry.
all things considered, like didn't it come down to the? I guess we don't need to name any names, but some of the athletes that
Mm.
we have had, like soccer players, for example, in the gym, didn't it get like is there like tension in between like sports lifting and like what they would consider to be like sports specific and then like say they come in to do like CrossFit type of a gym? Is there like not necessarily animosity, but like, oh, be careful doing
Oh
CrossFit?
yeah. Yeah, their trainers hate it. So anytime you play a sport at a high level, your coaches are very concerned about your extracurricular activities because
Uh-huh.
if you are doing a sport as an extracurricular, y- you're adding risk, right? So like you
Yeah.
won't catch Allie, who's Aubrey's sister right now. You won't
Yeah.
catch her doing subbing in for our indoor soccer team,
That's
right?
dangerous. Yeah.
Right, because it's the
Yeah.
same sport. She should be really good at it. Why would that be more dangerous? Why that added risk? Well, it's because she's not doing it for her team. She's doing it
Yeah.
for fun, right? So
Yeah.
they're kind of guarded about stuff like that. It's the
And
same
not
with
only that too, like the competition, like people coming in, sliding into
yeah.
your legs. It's
They
like,
know they're going to be competitive. They're not going to
yeah,
hold back. They're not going to be
yeah,
like, "Oh, I know you'll take this game 70%, so yeah, go ahead."
yeah, yeah,
Right? It's the same with I coached Valerie Grizzle's
yeah,
daughter
uh,
Sierra
yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit,
volleyball, right?
volleyball,
Yeah,
right? Wasn't allowed to do any of these like weekend tournaments or anything like co-ed type stuff, jump in with it. No, not allowed to do that stuff because it's added risk. So uh oftentimes CrossFit is seen the same way, although I would argue that CrossFit is probably one of the lowest risks in physical exercise you can get if done properly.
yeah,
Um, but again, I digress. Regardless, the point is, yes, there is some tension there,
uh-huh.
but if you can demonstrate how you're not going to um, ask of them to do like typically those girls weren't doing sprints at my gym, right?
Hold Can you just, I wanna hear what you said. I had, Charlie screaming at the door, and
Okay.
I blocked this ear for like, trying not to hear
Um,
him. Yeah, go ahead.
so those girls were rarely doing sprints at the gym,
Yeah,
but sprinting is like a heavy percentage of their sport.
yeah,
So why didn't I have them doing sprints? Well, because I assume they're doing sprints at their practice.
yeah,
I assume they're doing sprints every time they play the game. So for me to have them doing sprints, it just felt like a lot more impact and load. And that's not really what I feel like I'm signing on a youth or athlete for
yeah,
when they're trying to get better at their sport. So we'll come back again to kind of like how I'm approaching it now versus then and
I'll stay on
this whole
task.
topic, right?
Okay.
So the chinks in the armor I think was a cool thing to bring up about GPP. You will find some chinks in the armor and um, you'll be able to train them specifically. Fixing these chinks, these deficiencies has immediate benefit within your sport and very often is not quite obvious mechanically and perhaps metabolically. We talked about the mechanically one, right? You don't think about how much lat strength you're using to kick a ball or to hold off your defender. Um, but perhaps metabolically. So now they're talking about energy. So maybe your flexibility, metabolically speaking, should have a little bit more dynamic range. So
Mhm.
oftentimes in soccer, you're training a very specific range and you're just getting more and more fatigue built in, but they actually aren't very good at just holding a good pace for a long time. So getting better at holding a good pace for a long time makes this in between easier and easier too.
Yeah,
So it works both ways. They feed each other. But um, okay, so here's their for instance, more pull-ups make for better skiing and skiers. That seems pretty obvious.
yeah,
Upper body pushing movements make for better rowing and rowers. That one's less obvious, I think. And anaerobic training is a boon to endurance athletes. So anaerobic means those faster efforts that they can't sustain.
so what's that last sentence mean? Is a boon to endurance athletes.
I honestly, what does boon mean?
That's what I was like, is this
Yeah.
a word that we should all know?
I love it when they throw in a word like I feel like that's
Googling
like
it.
a Glassman thing to say.
What is a boon? A thing that is helpful or beneficial. A
You could
favor.
have just said that.
Yeah, it's beneficial,
No, that's
right?
kind of a fun word. Okay, so we've increased our vocabulary on this podcast today as well.
If you get nothing else right now, we now know what a boon
We
is.
know that this podcast is a boon to your
I'm
vocabulary.
actually gonna write into the CrossFit website and be like, you could just put it
Helpful.
is helpful to endurance athletes.
No way. I like this. I like expanding this
Uh,
because now I get to use boon.
I
How fun
yeah.
is that?
Uh,
I'm gonna use that shit all the time.
I mean, the only reason I kind of knew what boon meant was where it was placed in the sentence, but
Yeah,
not
and what the
once in my life
context.
have I heard anybody ever use the word boon.
Well, I just used it about this podcast. So,
Yeah, well, this podcast is a boon, so
did you need any other clarification on that sentence, or was the boon thing
no,
just throwing off?
yeah, I think I
Okay.
got that now.
Uh,
Oh
all right.
my god.
There's a greater margin for improving performance in elite athletes, where the margins of victory are very tight. And improving GPP, CrossFit can be garnered then through additional. Okay, so I see what they're saying here. So this is again kind of talking about the chinks. Like you do sports specific training. Well, guess who else is doing sports specific training? Their opponents.
Yeah,
So now you're all
competition.
doing the same fucking training. It's just who wants it more,
Yeah.
right? But if you add on this, like what I'm going to call general work capacity training, now it makes this training more effective. And then it grows, which I think is actually, yeah, it's the next bullet point.
Huh.
CrossFit produces a ready state from which more advanced or sport specific training becomes very efficient.
Who's Mark Twight?
No idea. Doesn't matter.
It's
The
important,
sentence rang
obviously.
true.
It's
I
obviously
don't.
important.
Well, okay, look him up. Come on,
I've
help us out.
I've already started.
Um, but that's exactly what I was just saying, though, right? Is like it's going to build this better foundation for you to layer the specificity on top of, and it's probably going to accelerate the benefits of that specific training as well. That's where it's becoming efficient, right?
You have 3 guesses. Quick, rapid fire. What did Mark Twight do? You haven't looked it up, have you?
No, he's probably like a Olympic coach of
Nope.
some sort.
Guess 1 down. Number 2?
Um, Ultimate Fighting Champion.
Nope. One more time.
I should have went with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on that one. On that guess,
Ooh.
rower,
Nope. Rock climber.
rock climber. Damn it!
Dude, how many tries would it have taken you to get to rock climber?
I don't know if I would have. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have known
probably
if I
not.
was on the right track.
Yeah.
Um, okay,
So you're
so
ready. You're just ready
regardless,
all the time, which makes sense because if you're climbing rocks and your death is like on your doorstep, you should probably be ready all the time.
I like to say it puts you 8 weeks out, but it's probably depending on what level you play at and what sport you're playing and stuff like that. But
Wait, what's
I
8
like to
weeks
think
out?
of that. Any specific endeavor. If you have a high level of CrossFit, you might be
Uh-huh.
just 8 weeks out of training for a specific sport.
Oh, shit. All right.
Again, it depends on what level you're playing at and
Yeah.
all that. But I
So
mean, look at
from
all
0
these.
to ready.
Yeah, look at all. Did you see this happened? Gosh, what years were these? Probably 2019-ish, maybe 20, right before that Winter Olympics. Was that
Yeah.
2020?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oops.
How many CrossFitters, professional CrossFitters, were doing Olympic level bobsledding? I wonder if we could find that.
Yeah, because there's a few of them now, right? Bobsled. I mean, it auto-populated, so it's got to be something. Here's why so many CrossFitters are
That's what I
flocking to
saw too.
bobsled. Same.
James Newberry, he's actually still a competitor.
Tia?
Tia Toomey. There's another girl from America. I don't know where she went.
Colleen Foch?
That's her, yeah.
Did I say
Kelsey
that correct?
Keel.
That's crazy. So, but why though? What's going on?
I mean, like I said, you're 8 weeks out. So if you're 8 weeks out, that means nothing because you still have this sport. All that means is that they have all this foundation, and these
Uh-huh.
coaches were like, I think we could fucking train them to be good at pushing a sled on ice and getting in and taking their turns and knowing
Yeah.
the course. And they're like, I think we could teach them the actual sport stuff. They just, they already have the base development. In fact, they're probably better than half the people at our sport. They're our only option now. See that? So they're 8 weeks out, let's say. Obviously, they took it more seriously than that. They did more than 8 weeks of training.
Yeah.
Um, but the reason they picked CrossFitters was because of their build and their weight, probably. Their height, weight, and those numbers that they're able to do on Olympic lifting.
So they're just like a natural fit.
Yeah.
They're just good at everything. That's what I hope to do
Well, they're
someday.
they're
Like
like,
you
okay, well they already have the weight abilities that we look for in like Olympic lifting or in whatever benchmarks they're tracking, squatting. It could be imagine it's mostly squatting, Olympic lifting, and maybe some sprinting. And maybe even just sled work in general, right? They already have exposure to all these training implements. They already
Mhm.
have an extraordinarily high level at each of these things. What if we just took a CrossFitter, taught them the sport specific things, and they would probably just fly with it? Is
Just
kind of the
crush it. So
idea.
did they do well? Because I didn't notice it.
I haven't followed up with it. Maybe you
Yeah.
can look through that while I'm
Yeah, we can see.
continuing down this article a little bit. So
Um,
we'll come back to the bobsledders, unless you
yeah,
have it
and
right there.
I don't wanna get too terribly off task, and maybe it's a topic for another show, but, like, I got Instagram, like, hooked by some guy talking about CrossFit, and he's like, you know, 30 years ago, like, if you were in the Olympics, you had to either be really fucking strong with no ability to run any sort of distance, or you had to be really, really skinny with no ability to lift anything. And now you've got these athletes, and they started talking about
Mhm.
Froning, right? Rich Froning?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that correctly. He was saying, he's like, and there was some unit of measurement he was talking about. He's like, um, is it VOC? Is it like your oxygen intake? Do you know what that
VO2
is?
max.
Oh, okay. So I must be on the right path here. So, he was saying that his level of VOC or whatever was up at the top with like ultra marathoners, like what he was able
Yep.
to do with like his lungs. And then you throw that inside a 260-pound man who can like throw things over a house. It's like you have like this freaking like a god basically. And it's like it's just going to change like the sports just across. I think it went back to the Olympics just talking about like, oh, well, now they can just run these distances and they're huge, but like they can handle it. So it was, I
Mhm.
don't know, I got all sidetracked
Yeah,
on that.
no,
It
I
was
mean,
crazy.
it is interesting. I don't think CrossFit gets enough credit for how much it's changed the landscape of strength and conditioning, let alone physique training, group fitness. I mean, look at now how many knockoffs of CrossFit there are. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got these Orange Theories, these F45s, these Barry's boot camps. They're all just knockoffs from an original product. And what they typically do is they take what people find fun
Hmm.
and then they only sell that. That's all they do is the fun stuff. They don't do the stuff that is actually all about growth and
That's actually
potential
working.
necessarily. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a limit to what's working there. But
Yeah.
the point is that now they just ran with this product that wasn't theirs. You know, to me, it's stealing in some sense, but I
Yeah.
get it. They're
That,
trying to make a living or whatever.
yeah.
But that's all it is. It's just a knockoff. They did that, and now go to Globo gyms and all that shit, and they've restructured. The gym that's down the road from me, Crunch,
Uh-huh.
used to have like a basketball court and then a small weightlifting area behind it.
Uh-huh.
And when I went there, when I was still a CrossFitter at this time, but I would train in the winters, kind of at this gym sometimes because I trained out of my garage in the summers.
Hmm.
And I would do like Olympic lifting out there. It was the only place that you could drop the barbell and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then I'd shoot some hoops because that's fucking cool too.
Yeah.
Well, right after I left that gym and I bought my own gym, guess what they changed that entire floor to?
The gym floor.
It looks like a fucking CrossFit gym, but
Oh,
it
that's
looks
crazy.
like a really tacky one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like with also a bunch of
It's that off
kickboxing
brand.
bags and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or real lots of mixed grips on the pull up stuff. It's like
Uh-huh.
that's taken basically straight out of CrossFit and then just put it in that gym. They've
That's crazy.
changed everything.
Yeah.
because of CrossFit. And nobody wants to admit that, but they fucking have. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody is now
Proof
training
in the pudding.
differently because of CrossFit, including high level strength and conditioning people for the most part.
Oh, and then before I forget, going back to the Froning thing, that he was saying, he was like, CrossFitters like have like no like real no ties, and they're always just looking for like something fun to do, I think is what he was saying. So they'll just like change things up, and they're just like they're not married to like one movement. And so it's like there's just like they're constantly doing new things that the body's just like trying to, I don't know, like adapt basically. I'll have to pull it up and send it to you because I thought it was pretty fascinating what they were saying, and who knows if like the guy actually knew what he was talking about. But it was pretty sweet. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's I do want there's pros and cons. Like if you don't give yourself fully to a movement, you'll probably never fully master the
Hmm.
movement, correct?
Yeah.
However, is there any movement that requires full mastery in order for us to live a longer, healthier life?
Wait, we'll say that again.
Is there any movement that requires a full mastery for a better, longer, healthier life?
I can think of I think a couple of them.
Name a movement.
Um, like a movement in my normal life or a movement at the gym.
Just a movement. Yeah, a movement probably at the gym, I guess.
I'm gonna use it, but don't make fun of me bending over.
So like a deadlift.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a master at a deadlift, what does that mean?
Well, I'm I feel like I'm giving the wrong answers and I'm getting
Yeah,
nervous.
well, you're getting set up is what it is. You're gonna look like a
I
total
can feel
fucking
it's like,
idiot
when
right
you're
now.
walking into a trap. No, no, I'm talking about like, you said for a longer, fuller life, and I was like, "Well, if I can't bend over, man, that sucks." Like, pick something up.
Sure, but does that mean you should probably search for a 1,000-pound deadlift?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not. I'll never get there, especially not with that attitude. But
I'm looking up the
I see what
quote.
you're saying. You did kinda set me up there.
Yeah, that was
Was that enjoyable
definitely a
for you?
setup. Was that enjoyable for you?
Are you happy with yourself?
Hold on a
S
second.
Yeah,
I'm looking up this quote. Oh man, I can't find it. Why is this hard to find?
'cause you're on the spot and you'd like it now. It feels like it's really difficult to find. You know, you have a tech savvy wizard over here that can.
Oh, okay. So we're just saying, having a drop. There's, gosh, dang it. All right. Well, it's the jack of all trades.
Master of none.
Yeah. Yes, a jack of all trades is master of none. But then they said there's lately kind of come out there. It's like there's another piece to this quote that you could use. Jack of all trades is a master of none, but a master of one is, I don't remember, but basically useless, right? Because think about it, you can deadlift 1,000 pounds. Look at anybody who has ever deadlifted 1,000 pounds. How long have they lived for? And how long have they been able to bend over and pick something up off the ground for?
Yeah, probably not very long. They've hurt
It
their
is
back.
not quite simply a recipe, and the more weight you can deadlift, the longer your life is going to be, and the more you're going to be able to bend over and pick things up. It's not a direct correlation causation argument,
Yeah,
right? In fact, I would say the correlation is super low, and therefore causation is non-existent, right?
I'm trying to
Follow?
I'm trying to process, causation because now this
So
is
the
the second time.
so remember correlation, we're just trying to say like correlation is like it's been seen that if you do this, this could
Uh-huh.
be an outcome,
Yeah.
right? If you've
Uh-huh.
deadlifted 1,000 pounds, you could be good at picking things up off the ground the rest of your life. That would be a correlation,
'Kay.
not a causation.
And then the causation is just basically like the cause?
Well, causation is often just an argument,
Oh,
to be
okay.
honest. So hard to find cause in anything.
Yeah. I was just gonna go back and say, you could just say cause, but, rather than, you know,
Hey,
boom.
this is science.
It's science.
Um,
Someday I'll get there.
So I mean, getting back on track a little
Yeah,
bit.
sorry.
Okay, so let's just go to the next thing. So we just
Just
talked
move
about
on.
how the GPP is going to help prepare you for your specific training, which is then going to be more efficient and more effective at what it's supposed to do. Okay, that's my statement. It's bold. We're sticking with it.
Just leave it.
Um, CrossFit will, for many sports, reduce the total training volume, reduce training injuries, and allow for more time for vital sport-specific skills and drills. Um, this is probably because what they're arguing is you'll take an off season in almost every sport,
Mhm.
right? And especially at this 14-year-old age, what do most kids do? They do one of two things in an off season typically. And what do you think those things that are right now?
Sitting.
Okay, sitting. That's one of the two. What's the
Is that
other
right?
one?
Uh-huh.
That's definitely
Uh,
one. Think opposite.
Running.
I would say it's more sports specific training,
Okay. Oh, wait,
right?
more sports
So
or did I get it right?
you got the first part right.
Okay.
Second part is more sports specific training. So um let's take something that's I think really going to be easy to understand. A quarterback, a high
Mhm.
school quarterback. In the off season, you have a high school quarterback who just sits on his butt. Comes into the next season, look at how much volume they have to do to get these fucking
Get
kids
ramped
fit
back up.
again to play their sport.
Yeah.
Like they're all throwing up at practice, complaining that it's hot outside.
Yeah.
2-a-days are too much, right? That's all it comes down to, right? Well, if you had CrossFit the whole time you were doing that off season, one, you probably wouldn't even
Exactly.
need 2-a-days because you're already conditioned. You could just do your sports drills and get right into the season,
Yeah.
right? Would be amazing
Yeah.
to some
2
degree.
days were terrible.
Um, or you could do 2-a-days and be even potentially that much more prepared as long as you could teach these kids how to consume water and food at the rate that's high enough to recover and be fitter every time, right? So
Going back to episode
that's
9.
kind of where they're talking about it reduces total training volume because you've been
Yeah.
doing it nonstop, theoretically. The other
Yeah, that
thing
makes sense.
is you also have these kids who go from sitting on the couch to high levels of running, sprinting, jumping, pushing, all that stuff. And they're doing it twice a day all of a sudden, because that's
Yeah.
typically happening in the summer. Well, this sudden nothing to something is a recipe for
Disaster.
not arthritis, but any of those joint specific itises, right?
Yeah.
So patella tendonitis, right? So tendonitis in general. So all those aches and pains around the knees, and I guarantee you go talk to any CrossFit or not CrossFit, any high school football player in the beginning of their season, first game, how do their bodies feel?
Terrible.
Probably like, oh yeah, I don't know any of them that aren't complaining about their knees or something like
Yeah.
that, right? This is exactly why. They're actually more prone to injuries now, right? They now do their sport specific skills and drills in their practices and they can't give a full effort to them because it hurts to rotate and produce power through their joints. This is
So
kind of a major problem, I think,
yeah,
in some of
I
those
would
bigger
imagine.
sports, right? You also have the other end of the spectrum, the quarterback, excuse me, quarterball player, um, quarterback
Tread
football
lightly.
player,
Yeah. I know you in sports, man.
sports ball, lots of fun.
Sports ball.
Hopefully they get a good goal.
Yeah.
Um, shoot, they actually sometimes call them goals, huh? Well, not really. Anyway, so and in his off season, he's throwing 100 passes a day to try to really get better at it. But now he's actually overused his joint. And so then he goes into practices and stuff like that where he's now increasing his volume again and it's just too much. He's never really fully recovered that joint in the off season and stuff like that. So you have the other end of the spectrum now. You get overuse or you get sudden
Sure.
use
Yeah.
injuries. Um, and that's kind of what tends to happen. With the soccer players, I tend to see a lot of patella tendonitis because they run,
Mhm.
change of direction, sprinting, all this stuff in their sport specific training. Then they go do more sport specific training in the off season, so more of the same stuff. And they haven't done enough slow, controlled, heavy, full range type stuff to just have more of a therapeutic effect on tendons. Not to say that CrossFit is always slow, but it's full range for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're doing it right, you'll have warm-ups and cool downs that are slow and full range, and accessory work that is built around that. So again, I'm not trying to say CrossFit is the best idea for anybody on that level necessarily, but as a GPP thing, it's really probably pretty smart,
Yeah. Stay
right?
fresh.
So yeah, I mean, all these kids who think they're staying rested up for their season are actually causing more harm than good.
It's the old
And they're
saying,
like
no need to
coached to
get
do
ready
that.
if you're already ready.
Yeah. They're like coached to do that at this point.
Just rest.
Yeah.
Just sit around.
Okay. Sorry, I digress.
Oh,
CrossFit
we're
is
gonna
more
go somewhere.
fun and seems more athletic to experienced athletes than does traditional GPP. Not sure what traditional GPP means, if I'm being
Yeah.
totally honest. Um, and this to me is like, yeah, it's more fun. It is. You're in a group. You're still kind of being competitive, but in a totally different pattern. It is fun, but I'm not going to give that bullet point much more than that.
Not a lot
CrossFit
right there.
has athletes improving their. Are you trying to figure out what traditional
Yeah.
GPP might
Yeah.
mean?
And it came up with like bows and arrows. I was like, ah, this is not
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
imagine it's
after.
gonna be a hard one to
Yeah.
define on the internet. CrossFit has athletes improving their fitness for years beyond to levels significantly beyond tradition. I don't know what
Again,
traditional GPP is,
maybe
but
we're just talking like squats and bench press.
yeah, I mean they're probably just looking at PE
Oh, okay.
almost, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe I don't know.
Or whatever's
Um,
like generally specific to their sport.
yeah, I mean, I would guess a GPP for a soccer player is like go run on a treadmill for 20 minutes and
Yeah.
tell me how you feel
Yeah.
afterwards.
That's what I was thinking.
I imagine that's
Generally
traditional
specific.
GPP.
Yeah.
Um, okay, sport training and physiology are not so well understood that highly specialized strength and conditioning routines are optimally effective. I agree that there's some sentiment to that argument. So I think what they're saying there is there's not enough proof that their sport specific training is truly making them elite, which is why all these parents who pay for all this extra sport specific training don't necessarily have kids going into college or getting paid for to play their sport. And why would and the argument too might be like you have a lot of kids who are coming from maybe areas that there's no opportunities for sport specific training and they're going to the NFL and NBA and things like that because
Just
the
doing
individual is the most important piece of that puzzle, right? Does that make sense?
no, hold on,
Y-
elaborate. Because I was gonna
It's their
yeah.
character.
Oh,
They're
okay. That's what I was
they're the
thinking.
type of person that no matter where you would have put them, they would have figured that out
Yeah, yeah,
to
get in the
some extent,
situation and figure it out, make
right?
the best out of it.
And I'm not discrediting their training. I'm just saying that coupled with their training was a recipe for elitism in a great way, right?
See that?
But you have to have the character first. And so when you're looking at building your kids into incredible athletes, the character should be your number one focus as a parent. And then that will make sure that no matter what path you choose, they're going to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been working on Simon with that. Just, like, getting in the right mindset.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to intentionally do. And I'm sure I'm failing largely by
It's
the margins, but
it's hard. It's hard for sure. So, like, at what age? Say, I mean, we're talking about Simon, right? Like, when would be, like, an appropriate time to be like, "Hey, come in and" I mean, he does box jumps, like, I think he can do a 20-inch
you're talking
box
about
jump.
GPP stuff.
No, I'm just talking about Simon, just, like, getting him into the gym, because
Yeah, for GPP though, right?
oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
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 Um, I think with the right program, I think, someone like Simon's age, there's no real reason to lift external loads. It's more about
Body movement.
really fully controlling your body in space.
Yeah.
But you could still teach them to be pretty powerful. I know that there's I don't know where it's at, but there is I don't know if it's so much a study, so much as a no, I think it is like an observational study of what years is best to train what uh energy systems
Mhm.
and what types of fitness modalities, being that of like coordination versus agility versus speed.
Yeah.
Like, what are the years of best development for speed versus best
Yeah, yeah.
development for coordination versus best development for agility? There's certain years in their ages of development that are optimal for those. I don't know what they are,
Yeah.
but
Somebody's done something.
I know I've seen something on that. I don't know if it was James Fitzgerald from OPEX maybe that has a book that he was suggesting that talks about, you know, from 7 to 9 is best for this, from 9 to whatever is best for this. Generally speaking, based off of observations from other strength and conditioning coaches. It's not, from what I understand, that's a compilation of data. It's not like one person saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, just like his own opinion.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think it's never too late to expose your kid to movement, period. Could be yoga, it could be box jumps, it could be running, it could be soccer, it could be
Gymnastics.
CrossFit, as long as CrossFit is more body weight based,
Yeah.
where you're mixing movements. There's nothing wrong with any of it at any age, really. It's just a matter of, are they going to have fun, be entertained, be challenged, and want to rise to the challenge? And I think that last one is the hardest one. Is you kind of have to let them want it.
Yeah.
You can't, because you can't just be forcing it down their throat.
Okay. So real fast. So boys were taking a bath the other day and it was just like so boring. I was just sitting there, just like losing my mind.
I know that feeling.
Like I just wrapped out, started doing push-ups, started doing it. I was just like, what am I gonna do? I'm just like sitting here bored on my phone, which I didn't want to be doing. Didn't want them to
Mhm.
think that I wasn't paying attention to them. But then they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Dude, just doing some push-ups." So I'm hoping in my mind, I'm like, maybe they're like, "Oh, he's took a moment just to like, be fitness, or do some workouts here, see if I can fix the
Tell me this
mindset or at least
backfires.
set the seed, whatever you call it."
Did it backfire, or is that the end of the
Well, Katie
story?
walked in on me and she started laughing at me. It's like, "Oh,
I
shit, busted."
feel like if I did shit like that in front of my kids, they'd be like, "Yeah, but that's you."
Yeah, that's just you. Yeah,
Yeah, or
be more like dad.
yeah, or they just call me out for being a douche.
Yeah.
Um, I could see at their age now, they like to try to get under my skin like that. But
Hey, it doesn't sound like it's working. Sounds like you're pretty strong.
at any rate, I
Yeah,
think so. So that's the GPP article, and I think that article is really important when we talk about the sport-specific training, because we have to understand what purpose GPP serves. And if it's not clear, let me just in one sentence make it really clear. GPP is the foundation for which specific training can be efficient and effective. So if you have no GPP, do all your sport specific training you want, you're still increasing your risk for injuries and
yeah.
other things, and burnout on the sport, because you're not able to get better because you've put a ceiling on it by being too specific too soon. Because you can right, it's just like any pyramid. GPP is the bottom, sport
Mhm.
specific's the top. You cannot outgrow your base on that sport specific shit.
Yeah, so lay a strong ass foundation. That's
Lay a
good.
strong foundation, and that foundation doesn't stop at 12. If it stopped at 12, these kids would be Olympic lifting monsters at 12 years old,
Yeah,
right? Like, that's a, you could, I mean, even then you could argue it's not, because can they then stand on their hands for a minute straight?
yeah.
There's tons of GPP out there that you can layer in, usually in the off season. So if we have to give a kind of prescription for people in your off, so this is now where we talk about how I would approach it now, is off season
Uh-huh.
GPP. Let's
Yeah,
increase their work capacity across broad times and modal domains. If you don't know what that means, it's CrossFit's definition for what it does. It increases your work capacity. How much can you do? Across broad times. What's the time frame? Doesn't matter. I'm increasing my work capacity within it. 10 seconds, 1 minute, 60 minutes, 2 hours, doesn't matter. I'm
yeah.
increasing my capacity in that time frame, my work capacity. And modal domains. What's the movement selection? Doesn't matter. I'm going to fuck it up anyway, right? I'm going to crush this workout no matter what comes my
Yeah,
way. No matter
yeah,
what life throws at me, I'm going to rise to the top because I'm generally physically prepared for it.
And parenting
Okay.
can also be a thing that you gotta be ready for, right?
Yeah. There will definitely be okay, Lily. What went from a treat has turned into her just binging the whole time I've been on this. I think she's definitely
Oh,
leveraging.
nice.
Luckily, it's popcorn.
Oh, that's alright then. Is it like tell me it's like kettle corn, though.
No, it's like that. I think it's got a cheddar flavor to it. I actually hate
Ooh.
this stuff, but
Is it in a tub or a bag?
bag.
Oh, yeah, she's fine. Tub would be a
Um,
problem. Bag's okay.
I think I haven't seen her in the comments yet, but my wife might be pretty upset about it. I don't know.
Well, Catherine, get up and do something about it then.
She's at work right now, dude.
Oh, she is? Oh, that's
Yeah,
dedication. But we haven't
yeah,
seen her, so we might have, some new people on here. Might not be Catherine.
maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
crazy.
If you're watching and you want to get in the chat, we'll talk to you
That's
directly.
true. We're
Um,
approachable.
okay, so just to just finish, I know I felt like I had a good finishing touch to that, but
Yeah, I know.
I feel like there's still plenty out there on this. Like, don't send your kids into just sports specific. Let them try new sports. Let them play in their learning and development. And uh, when they're ready, they'll tell you they're ready. And that's when you can send them to that next level.
Yeah.
But the whole while, off-season training, make sure they're doing GPP. Like, so now off-season GPP, as we lead into the season, I'm actually decreasing how much GPP and
Mhm.
increasing how much sport-specific training they're
Oh,
doing.
okay. Just warming them up.
That was something I was going to mention. So, um, let's say their off-season is 3 months, 3 months of standard CrossFit type stuff. In fact, I might selectively choose things that they won't do in their season. So I might have a soccer player run less in GPP. Or
Oh,
when they
in
run,
GPP.
it's long, slow running, not hard, fast running.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then as
Don't
the
do the
season
things.
approaches, the volume of running, sprints, that modality, the uh, time domain. So for soccer players, it's typically short sprint, short recovery. So
Uh-huh.
think like 10 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, things like that. Deals like that is increasing. And then their accessory work is all about building tendons to be really strong and resistant so that when we start loading those forces again in the season,
Mhm.
they can handle
Can
that
handle it.
adaptation quickly and effectively.
Yeah, I think that's been helpful. At least this
I,
conversation. We'll figure it out going forward, but
it's
it makes
always
sense
it's
now.
never it's a moving target to some degree, right? Like it's never going to be easy or perfect, but it's a little bit of a moving target. And
Yeah,
every body is different. So when you do these group-based sport specific training, a couple people get way more out of it than do the rest because some of them will have a better foundation,
yeah. I'm
right?
rolling right into 2-a-days from sitting on their couch all day.
We did that CrossFit Kids class for a while, and I got to see one of Cooper's friends came in to try it out, and it was his first day in this CrossFit thing. The other ones have had multiple weeks at this point, and he was telling me how many sports he played. Like, oh, I've done some boxing, I've done
Well,
track whenever it comes up, I do jujitsu occasionally, and I do football, baseball. Like literally, there was like I was like, dude, okay, I get it. You're gonna pass out telling me all the sports you play,
yeah,
right? Like, but I shit you not, the in that one class, you could just tell that kid played more sports.
you could tell?
Cause yeah, because he
Oh,
could
yeah.
do everything to a better level, pick it up quicker, take a cue from me better,
Uh-huh.
and adapt quickly because he's
Yeah.
tried so many things.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
crazy.
exposure to everything is far more beneficial, especially at a younger age.
And you're just like, "Alright, I get it.
I did. I literally told him he's gonna pass out. Like,
Shh,
yeah,
shh, stop talking."
you gotta
You're on
breathe,
the
dude.
assault bike, you're not supposed to be talking. Go harder.
But yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome.
So anyway, that's how CrossFit and sports specific training kind of lives and breathes. Obviously, that's 10,000-foot view. If you wanted to get really nerdy, you would have to really crack down on one type of athlete and maybe even have some other stuff
Oh,
to talk about.
Miss Mac. Great conversation.
Mrs. Mac, we're done. So hopefully, if you were here the whole time, we're done.
She
We're
said
good.
she'll listen to the rest later.
All right.
Nice.
That's it for
Awesome.
today, guys. Episode 10's over. Let me know.
Happy 10 episode, Mitch.
Yeah.
We
Like,
did it.
comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we'll see
Yeah.
you a week from today.
And what do you feel about if somebody has something that they would like us to discuss for multiple?
Oh, you can always just leave it in the comments
Yeah.
or hit us up on Instagram. Probably be easiest at CrossFit
Facebook
Magni.
page. Facebook.
Oh, don't hit me up on Facebook.
You don't
That's a
look at Facebook?
nightmare. On the business side, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. On the
Yeah.
social side, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, to be fair. The only thing that's great about Facebook is the groups.
Yeah, that's true. Because I can see all the people catching much, much larger fish than me in the same river that I go to. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah. Speaking of functional fitness,
All right.
rowing.
That's not rowing.
Oh, awkward.
Oh.
Nice.
All right. Talk to
Word.
you guys later.
Thanks, Mitch.